Life Audio.
Welcome to the Untangling Prayer Podcast with Rachel Wojo, where you'll find the space to clear your head and calm your heart. I'm so glad you're here. Make yourself at home. Well, hey there, I'm Rachel and I'm so glad you've joined me today. Before we get going on this week's fabulous content, I wanted to be sure that you knew about this brand new resource that I've created, 10 Bible verse cards to help you remember God answers prayer. These free printable cards will encourage your heart with the truth that God hears your prayers and He is still in the prayer answering business. I'll leave the link to these beautiful free Bible printable cards in the show notes for you. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you may notice a few changes. My heart is that it would be a helpful and encouraging resource for you. I've designed this format to help you get the most from each episode. And if you find it helpful, I'd love to know. You can always reach me at rachel@rachelwojo.com. And now for this week's segment of Hot Questions from Hard Spaces, a segment where I answer the hard questions about prayer that people email or DM me. Feel free to do that yourself at rachel@rachelwojo.com. And now, Hot Questions from Hard Spaces. Today's hot question is, how do I keep praying when I'm tired of waiting? Man, persistence in prayer can be so challenging, especially when it feels like nothing is changing, despite prolonged results. There have been many times in my life where I was waiting for an answer to prayer. I've heard it said that God answers prayer in three ways. It's yes, no, and not now. We always know when God answers yes to prayer, right? It means change took place or provision was received, the issue was resolved, or the pain point was removed. And I've experienced some really crazy yes answers to prayer in my lifetime. God has wowed me. But most of the time, we know when God says no, it means things didn't go in our favor, right? Somebody else got the job, or another family bought the house, or the proposal was declined, the door was closed, maybe even slammed, and we knew that was an answer to prayer. Really hard to handle. Today, we're not talking about that space either. But we are talking about those times when the answer is waiting. We're in the wait. It's not a no. It's not a yes. Yes answers are really awesome. We rejoice. We are happy. We can't wait to share how God has worked in our lives. The no answers, those are painful. We struggle to understand. We feel confused. And it takes time to work through the next steps after a no. But there is this land in between the yes and the no. Sometimes feels like even more difficult than a no, and definitely less joyous than the yes. It's the not now. So how do you keep praying when you're tired of waiting on God? There is no easy, quick answer for this hot question of how do I keep praying when I'm tired of waiting? But I want to encourage you to keep praying. There have been times, many times, in fact, even just last night, where I showed up to spend time with God and I said, it's me again. I still don't know the answer to this question, but I know that you do, and I'll rest in your sovereignty. Just show up for your God and let Him know you're tired of waiting, but you want to trust Him. Peter prayed, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. And so I would encourage you also to pray, Lord, deepen my trust. Give me endurance for the wait. Give me the reminders that you are still working as I am waiting. Thanks so much for listening in to this segment of Hot Questions from Hard Spaces. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsors. Thank you for allowing that word from our sponsors. And now I'm diving into the podcast segment I call Pray More, Worry Less Encouragement. This is the segment where we focus on one prayer principle that can help you pray more and worry less. And today's principle is the secret to finding peace amidst mental chaos is surrendering our burdens to the Lord. The overwhelming pressures of life can cloud our minds, making it difficult to think or even make decisions. And in these moments, we crave peace and clarity, but often feel trapped in anxiety and confusion. In Psalm 39, David voiced a heartfelt plea to God, expressing his feelings of being a stranger and longing for relief. His cry for help and the desire to enjoy life again resonate deeply with anyone who feels overwhelmed and out of place. When we find it hard to think and we need peace, we can pray to God just as David did. God invites us to bring our struggles and confusion to Him, promising to hear our cries and respond with compassion. His presence offers the sanctuary where we can find the peace to clear our minds and regain our sense of purpose. The secret to finding peace amidst mental chaos is surrender. As we seek His presence in prayer, He provides the tranquility that restores our minds and hearts, which is exactly what I needed last night. Trusting in His faithfulness allows us to experience the peace that surpasses all understanding, even amidst our struggles. I pray that that encourages you today. In our final segment of the podcast, each week, I share an answered prayer story, and today I am sharing my friend Danette's story. It's one that you simply won't believe. My friend Danette and I both lost our fathers within a few months of each other. At the small group my husband and I hosted weekly, she shared a prayer request. Her father had left his retirement account to his children, but it was an all-or-nothing situation. Every person listed as an heir had to sign the paperwork before the inheritance could be released. There was only one problem. Danette's brother lived on the city streets and had been estranged from his family for several years. No one knew where he lived, which was the way he wanted it. Our group prayed that he would be found, and we promised to continue praying for Danette and her brother. Later that week, Danette prayed, "Lord, I can't imagine you would not let our family have this money that my dad worked so hard for and designated to his children. But you are God and I am not. So I am giving this to you. I don't know where my brother is, but you do. If it is your will that I find him and we receive this money, I will need your help." She drove to the area of the city where she had last seen her brother years before, but it was a ghost town. Finally, the Holy Spirit nudged her to stop by a gas station she knew her brother had frequented. She told the cashier, who had only been working there for 2 months, that she was looking for her brother. The cashier met her gaze and said it just so happened that she was a leader of a missing persons community network. God had led Danette to the exact person with the expertise to help find her brother. She gave the cashier all her contact information and then drove home, leaving the situation in God's hands. The following day, Danette awoke to the sound of her phone ringing. It was her homeless brother. Someone had visited his tent at 3 a.m. and given him a piece of paper with Danette's name and number on it. The Lord works in mysterious ways, but His promise to help us is alive and well. Danette's answer prayer story can be found in my new book, Desperate Prayers, Embracing the Power of Prayer in Life's Darkest Moments. It's available for pre-order now at desperateprayers.com. Thank you for joining me on the Untangling Prayer Podcast. I pray that today's episode has encouraged you in your walk with the Lord. Until next time, remember, God sees you and knows your needs. Thank you for listening to the Untangling Prayer Podcast with Rachel Wojo. For show notes and resources, please visit rachelwojo.com. See you again soon.
What happens when a writer and former history teacher goes toe-to-toe with his best friend, a nationally touring stand-up comedian? Total carnage, that's what. 2 men enter, and 2 men leave, because that's how it works.
Actually, you get hilarious, real, and insightful conversations about life, history, culture, faith, and everything in between.
Join me, comedian Johnny W., and my pal, author and speaker John Driver for Talk About That at lifeaudio.com or wherever you get your podcasts.